Have you ever thought that you cannot compete out there with the big names, the big companies? In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how you can get an advantage over the big companies that you never thought were possible. If you're new to this channel, my name is Mariusz Konieczny. I run Microcap Explosions, a website dedicated for microcap stocks, hated and ignored by the investment community. I also wrote 10 books on investing, one of which is available for a free download at microcapexplosions.com. Why do we do this to ourselves? A lot of times we feel like we can't compete and we want to go into places where we don't really have a lot of edge just because a particular place is popular. As small business owners, as small investors, we can get advantage over big companies in areas that, they can't really compete. Let me give you an example of Zillow. You know Zillow, that is, a popular name. They have a great business. They have a technology website, right, for real estate information. They use this platform where a lot of people go to search for real estate information, listings, all sorts of information about properties, and then they sell it to real estate agents. In other words, real estate agents pay Zillow to be on the platform to advertise themselves. So when people search for homes, the real estate agents pop up on the side, and with the hope that the people would call them and they could buy the house through them or get representation through them. So it's an absolutely fantastic business. It's a very high margin business, a very scalable business. And what did Zillow do at one point? A year or a few months ago, Zillow went into home flipping business because they were looking for growth. But you see, not all growth is created equal. There's a good growth, and then there is not so good growth, capital intensive growth. Zillow thought it was a fantastic idea because they have all this information about homes, where the prices are going, and they thought that they would be able to buy the homes and flip them. And this turned out to be a complete disaster. It was a disaster not only from the point of view that it's a terrible business model compared to the business model that they have. Their business model is absolutely fantastic, that they decided to go into a terrible business model of house flipping, which is very capital intensive because they have to buy those homes and then they have to, resell them, and they risk a lot of capital for very small margins, because flipping business, especially when you don't add much value to the properties, it's a very low margin and risky business. And it didn't take them long enough to realize that they were losing money. Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because this is an example of how you and I can get an advantage over a big company like this. Why is it? Because real estate flipping business, it's very area specific, it's not scalable, and it is so individualistic. Every house is different. Just because you look at a picture of the house or you have a bunch of data doesn't mean you properly evaluated it, okay? You can't see if a furnace is broken by looking at a picture or some data. You can't see if the carpet has to be replaced. All of those things have to be individually inspected. Kind of like, appraising a house, like you have to go in and look at it, right? Or you have to have enough local knowledge to be able to determine the proper analysis, okay? So the local people, local real estate investors, have a massive advantage over Zillow, who has all of this information. And this is an example of an advantage that you can have over a big company. So depending on where you are with your wealth level, you can get returns completely different based on that level. So if you only have $100, okay, $100 to your name, what's the best way to double that $100? Put it in crypto? Put it in the stock market? Put it in microcap stocks? No, the best way to double your money is to go and get a job. work 10 hours and you double your money, right? Now, once you have $10,000 to your name, is this the best strategy to double your money? Well, no, because depending, of course, on your job, but it would take you more than 10 hours. If you make, let's say, $10 or $20 an hour, it would take you a lot of hours to double that. So at that point, when you have $10,000, you have different investment opportunities that can create better returns for you. So why would you go and try to invest that $10,000 into places like the big hedge funds invest in? You don't have any edge, okay? And you don't have any advantage. Your advantage at that point might be, hey, I'm gonna flip a house because I'm getting an advantage over Zillow. I'm getting an advantage over hedge funds because I can take this 10,000 and I can maybe turn it into 50 or 100 or 30 or whatever. And hedge funds can't do that because they don't have those opportunities available for them. We always hear on TV or read books, people talking about think big, have big dreams. In this case, I would say, depending on where you are, think small, because you don't have to solve huge problems. You can solve very small problems, and that solving of a very small problem can make you create huge returns on your investment. Like the example of $100 that I said. How do you double your $100 in the savings? You solve very small problem. You go and get a job and you work for 10 hours, you solve a very small problem, but you double your money. If you have $10,000, how can you turn it into 50? Flip a house, flip a car. You don't have to find a cure for cancer. You don't have to create an electric car like Elon Musk created. Solving big problems is great, but solving big problems takes a lot of resources. And companies, big companies, Apple, Google, they have to solve big problems because solving small problems for them doesn't move the needle. So they have to seek solving big problems. So if you want to think big like everybody else is telling you, think huge, you are competing with those problem solvers. You are competing with those big companies and you don't have the resources to compete with them. Instead, why not look around you and solve a bunch of small problems? But just because the problem is small doesn't mean it can't change your life. You can solve a $100,000 problem and it changes your life. You can solve $1 million problem, it can change your life, but $1 million problem for the big companies doesn't move a needle. For you, it changes your life. I gave you example in some of the videos how I solved some problems in my life. So I gave you an example of how I am a ballroom dancer and my girlfriend and we were looking for a way to learn how to make ballroom dresses because they were expensive, $3,000 one dress. There was no information on how to make those dresses. So we partner up with a dressmaker out of New York and we made instructional videos on how to make ballroom dresses. There was no information out there. People wanted to know this. We solved a little problem. How big was the problem? We sold about $50,000 worth of those videos with zero advertising. So it was a $50,000 problem. How long did it take us to solve the $50,000 problem? 4 days. It's a small problem. No other big company was interested because they were looking for solving bigger problems. We solved a tiny problem and this made a big difference in our life. Another example, let's even take a look at one of my books, Gold Production from Beginning to End. A lot of people are speculating on gold and silver stocks, mining stocks. When I looked around, there was no good source, no good book on gaining information into this industry. So what did I do? I wrote a book and I didn't know anything about mining. I didn't go to school about mining. I just read this information everywhere. There was scattered around in different places and I put it in a 100-page book in a way that people could pick it up, read it in an hour and understand what it is that they're speculating on. I solved a little problem. It's not a huge problem. It's a very tiny and niche book, but it sells great. It sells great because I'm the only one in the world that has it. It's the best book on the subject, in my opinion, of course. But every month it generates me money. And It's a small problem, but it brings me benefit to my life. Big businesses look for scalable solutions because a scalable business is a great business. So like I said to you, home flipping business is not a scalable business. It's a business that it's easy to make 50,000, 100,000 per year. You can just flip, 1 or 2 houses per year, but to create $100 million a year business out of that, it's very hard. It would take a lot of work, a lot of people, a lot of capital, and a lot of labor. So it's not a very scalable business. That's why big companies don't go into that business. But that non-scalability is an advantage to you to get yourself from this point to this point. Then when you grow and you have more money, then it might not make sense to be in that kind of business. Then you look for the next scalable level. And it could be investing in the stock market, because stock market is very scalable. You can buy 5 shares of something, or you can buy 1 million shares of something, and it doesn't take you any more work. But probably the next level up would be to go into microcap stocks, because again, you can get an edge over the competitors. Make a lot of money in the microcap stocks. Why would you want to go into the big names? They don't offer the same upside, and you have a lot of competition. You don't have any edge. But in the small space, you have an edge. So as you move up in your wealth level, go into places where you continue to have an edge. That's how you get an edge over bigger companies. You see, it's not about how big of a problem that you're solving. It's about how much is it costing you to solve a problem and how much you are getting rewarded for solving the problem. It's the return on the effort and resources that you put into it. So in summary, if you want to get an edge, think small. Think about solving small problems. Think about going into businesses where they're not scalable so that the big boys don't come in. And then as you grow your wealth, go to the next level where you can still have an edge. And that next level might be microcap stocks. There's no reason why you can't grow your wealth to $100 million or more in microcap stocks before you even have to go into the big names. It's pointless. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Always think about it. Get an edge. Think small. Thinking big is nice on TV, but you don't have to solve big problems to make big money. Thanks for watching.